Good evening. I'm Heather Hiscox, and this is The National. Remains found on a BC farm last month are identified, and the questions grow about other missing women.
We're all wondering, what else is out there?
Do you have one of these in your home? The massive recall you need to know about.
It's not all right. It's never all right.
New data reveals a shocking number of Canadians have experienced harassment in the workplace. Plus, the country's most watched political panel on the country's newest party leader.
We are one step closer to renewing the Alberta Advantage.
At issue on Jason Kenney and his United Conservative Party. For the families of several women missing in British Columbia's Okanagan region, it's been months since they last heard from their loved ones. The wait for information? Agonizing. Now, one family's worst fear has come true. Human remains found on a farm last month have been identified as 18-year-old Tracy Généreux. Généreux was last seen in May in Vernon, BC. Her remains were discovered about 40 kilometers away on a large rural property. Police are still searching there, but not saying much. Briar Stewart reports.
Beneath a canopy of tents protected from the falling snow, investigators sift through dirt at a property under intense investigation. Nearly 2 weeks ago, police discovered human remains here on this 10-hectare farm. DNA tests now confirm they are those of 18-year-old Tracy Généreux. She was last seen getting into a white van in Vernon at the end of May. She'd been working in the sex trade at the time.
It is a very sad and tragic situation.
Angie Lohr runs an outreach organization and says the women she works with are on edge.
They also are, making each other maybe a little more aware of where they're going to be going. But then again, a lot is online. And so a lot of women we don't have contact with. A lot of women are just putting themselves in some vulnerable situations, and no one really knows where they are.
This farm is in the same area where a woman reported being attacked at the end of August. She was working as an escort and came here to connect with the man she first met online. Police issued a warning in October after the attack, and a few days later, they arrested and charged Curtis Sagmoen. He was living at the property where the remains were found. Police haven't laid any charges yet in relation to Généreux's death, but an exhaustive search is underway.
We do have a large number of resources that are dedicated to this investigation, and that's in a variety of forms, that being investigators that are conducting door knocks, investigators that are looking up previous file information, file review, to those that are physically on the scene.
Généreux is one of 5 women who have gone missing in this area in less than 2 years.
It makes me nervous with the snow on the ground now. How long are they going to be able to look?
For those living near the property, news of the investigation leads to more questions than answers at this point.
Not knowing, I think, is one of the worst things. They've announced that they found one body, but is there more? I mean, they're still on site with a large crew. We drive by there and we're just like, holy smokes, that's huge, eh? So we're all wondering, what else is out there?
This T-shirt was made.
No one more so than the families of the other missing women. John Simpson's daughter Ashley disappeared in 2016. She was living on a road that runs parallel to the property they're now searching. Simpson was relieved to hear the remains weren't his daughter's, but he's still without answers.
Very remorse in Tracy's family, knowing that they have found their child deceased in a terrible way, but they had closure on this. There's 5 other families in that area that don't have closure on their missing children in that area.
As for Généreux's case, police are still trying to establish a timeline to figure out just what led up to the 18-year-old's death and just why her remains were unearthed here. Briar Stewart, CBC News, near Salmon Arm.
You may want to take a closer look at your home fire extinguisher tonight. More than 40 million have been recalled in North America, nearly 3 million of them here in Canada, because they may not actually work in an emergency. And there have been reports of injuries, property damage, even a death connected to the defective model. Renee Filippone reports.
Most home fires start in the kitchen. Be prepared. Kidda's new kitchen fire extinguisher offers...
In an emergency, people turn to them. Stored around homes and in cars, fire extinguishers are there to save lives. But now, some Kidda devices have been recalled because in some instances they have become clogged or require excessive force to discharge and can simply fail to activate. The company says it's aware of one death due to a malfunctioning device. There have been approximately 391 reports of failed or limited activation, 16 injuries, and 91 reports of property damage.
If you attack a fire thinking you're going to put it out with a defective fire extinguisher and it doesn't work, you put yourself in harm's way.
The recall involves 134 models, manufactured between 1973 and 2017, all of them with plastic handles.
It's because it's cheaper. Plastic is definitely cheaper from metal.
Saeed Sederat sells fire safety equipment in Toronto, but doesn't sell these particular recalled products because he says the quality doesn't meet his standards.
We realize, based on our experience, whenever we try to put the kiddies put back together to refurbish them, or we call them 6 years maintenance, we always have difficulty with them, and they come back defective.
Sederat hopes the recall serves as a warning to Canadians to check their equipment. The company voluntarily recalled the fire extinguishers after it identified a safety issue.
Initially, they thought, oh, that's just a one-off, that's not reproducible because we haven't had that problem again. And then you get a second one, and then you get a third one, and that's when you have to do your internal investigation to see, have we got a deeper trend here? Have we got a deeper problem here?
Consumers are being told to visit the manufacturer's website to see if their device is included in the long recall list and that Kidda will replace them for free. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, in case you were wondering, regardless of brand, you should visually inspect your home extinguisher once a month and take it to a professional for servicing at least once a year. The Supreme Court of Canada dealt a major blow today to a BC First Nation. It ruled a massive ski resort development can go ahead at the base of Jumbo Mountain, land the First Nation considers the sacred home of the grizzly bear spirit. Greg Rasmussen has more.
The case boiled down to whether this land should be considered even more sacred than a bricks and mortar place of worship. The Ktunaxa First Nation sued to stop a ski resort from being built here, saying it would interfere with their religious practices, namely the worship of the spirit of the grizzly bear. After years of legal challenges, the Supreme Court has ruled the development can proceed.
The resolve of the Ktunaxa Nation and the Ktunaxa people is undeterred, and we feel that we didn't fail. It was others that failed to hear.
The Indigenous people carry forward to try to work towards reconciliation. So it's time now. And this court said, sorry, we can't do it.
But the court says the First Nations claim went beyond what's protected under the Charter, which is the freedom to worship. The state's duty is not to protect the object of beliefs, such as grizzly bear spirit. Rather, the state's duty is to protect everyone's freedom to hold such beliefs. The Assembly of First Nations calls the ruling a setback in the fight for greater recognition of Indigenous spiritual beliefs. Perry Bellegarde says governments need to legislate stronger protections.
In their words about nation-to-nation reconciliation, we have a lot of work to do regarding comprehensive law and policy review and, again, to fully implement the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
Whether the resort ever gets built is another matter. Work has been suspended for years, but both the developer and the mayor of the yet-to-be-built village vow to restart construction.
The court took the right approach to this, that there is still room for some accommodation, and we will look for ways in good faith to find it.
For decades, the proposed resort has attracted both court challenges and on-the-ground protests. It's not clear what's to come.
Our right to practice our beliefs in that place is forever protected.
The fate of the development now falls back to the BC government, which controls permits for the project. Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Vancouver.
The backlash against sexual harassment in the workplace, triggered by allegations against Harvey Weinstein, is growing by the day as more accusations and more firings spread beyond Hollywood into other industries and other countries, including Canada. Today, Ottawa released a report that says more than half of respondents in an online voluntary survey suffered harassment on the job. A third said it was sexual in nature, and about 1 in 5 said the harassment took a violent form. But the findings made it clear very few victims report the harassment. Katie Simpson has more.
Federal politicians are trying to find ways to fight harassment in the workplace. But even members of parliament are not immune to experiencing the problem firsthand.
Things have happened to me in the past.
Conservative MP Karen Vecchio says earlier this year she faced inappropriate intimidation from another MP. She said it happened after she spoke out about Liberal Nick Diorio making a sexist comment to Conservative MP Diane Watts. Vecchio can't get into the details about her incident since she took the complaint to mediation.
I was very fine with it, the way it was dealt with.
The revelation comes on the same day the government released the results of its public consultation on harassment in the workplace. The Department of Labour collected information from Canadians through an online survey and by meeting with employers, unions, and academics. Though the evidence is mostly anecdotal, the minister in charge says it suggests harassment is serious, and some women are afraid to report incidents out of fear of retaliation.
These kinds of things create trauma. They create mental illness. They create substance use problems. They create family breakdown. They create all kinds of difficulty for women.
Patty Haidu met with experts today who say more training could help.
So making it really clear to Canadians where they can go when these things happen and what protections do they have.
Public awareness around this issue is growing in the wake of allegations against Harvey Weinstein, and equally important, the reaction.
Feel unsafe.
The Prime Minister acknowledged that movement today.
One of the things we are seeing now collectively is there is an awakening. There is an increasing awareness that it's not all right. It's never all right.
The minister in charge defended the use of anecdotal evidence in this report. And while no plan to tackle the issue was announced today, the government says it's developing a framework for Canadian workers that would address harassment complaints in the near future. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
The British government is also struggling with how to deal with sexual harassment after allegations of misconduct rocked that country's halls of power. They've already brought down 2 elected officials, and as Thomas Dagg reports, more could soon fall.
Have you got a clean record? Freshly appointed Defense Secretary Gavin Williamson was welcomed into cabinet with the question of the day.
Do you meet the highest standards, Mr. Williamson?
It's a reflection of the mood at their workplace, cast as an old boys club rife with misbehavior.
We've seen bullying allegations that's happened between members of staff. We've seen allegations of sexual impropriety between elected members and others. And this is all about power.
The scandal came to a head with the abrupt resignation of Defense Secretary Michael Fallon, saying his conduct 10 or 15 years ago would be considered inappropriate now.
There are a number of allegations swirling around. Many of them are obviously false. But there are some serious issues here.
And his resignation may be the tip of the iceberg. Junior government staff have been passing around a spreadsheet with the names of about 40 Conservative MPs, all tied to a variety of unproven accusations. Some senior Tories have gone on the defensive.
A vast majority of people in Parliament do not get up to this kind of stuff.
And it's not just Conservatives. Tonight, the Labour Party suspended MP Kelvin Hopkins over apparent sexual misconduct allegations. And earlier this week, a Labour activist spoke of being raped at a party event and later being told to keep it quiet.
It was suggested to me that I not report it. I was told that if I did, it might damage me.
The Prime Minister will meet with other party leaders next week to come up with a grievance process for claims of harassment. Already, this scandal has weakened the government and shaken the British public's confidence in their parliament. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, London.
Coming up, how a volcano in the Philippines gave scientists the tip-off about threatened polar bears in Canada. Plus, At Issue takes the measure of Alberta's new political force, Jason Kenney and his United Conservative Party. Let the punditry begin. 8 former members of the Catalan regional government are now in custody. The separatist politicians are being held pending a possible trial over the Catalonian Declaration of Independence last week. The ousted president, Carles Puigdemont, has fled to Belgium. Spanish prosecutors are pushing for charges of sedition, rebellion, and misuse of state funds. North Korea's nuclear program is expected to be a top issue on U.S. President Donald Trump's Asia tour, which begins tomorrow. The 10-day trip will also focus on international trade and security. Trump will visit Japan, China, and the Philippines. And Canada has suffered another setback in the long-running softwood lumber dispute. The U.S. finalized import duties on some Canadian producers, ranging from about 10 to 24%. Ottawa calls the move unfair, unwarranted, and deeply troubling. As police continue their investigation into Tuesday's deadly terror attack in New York City, there are concerns Donald Trump's tweet tirade about the suspect may interfere with the course of justice. Late this afternoon, crews began installing barriers along the bike path where 8 people were killed and where passers-by now leave flowers and messages. 2 days after the attack, the grief and fury endure, both personal and political.
Terrorists should know this. This administration will use all lawful tools at our disposal.
I'm calling on Congress to immediately terminate the diversity visa lottery program.
Police believe Saifullah Saipov acted alone, inspired by ISIS. The attack has elicited calls for the death penalty, including, controversially, from none other than the president himself. And that is leading legal experts to question whether a fair trial, or any trial at all, is even possible. Stephen D'Souza has more on that.
Since the New York attack, Donald Trump has been clear. He thinks the U.S. justice system is too soft on terrorists.
What we have right now is a joke, and it's a laughingstock.
But those tweets take it a step further, calling for the death penalty before Saifullah Saipov has even been tried.
It's not appropriate for the president to be weighing in on guilt or innocence or upon punishment.
New York State doesn't have the death penalty, though it can be sought for one of the federal charges Saipov is facing. The Justice Department hasn't said what it will do. This law professor says if the case goes to trial, Saipov's defense could argue that the president has poisoned the jury pool.
Yeah, they could say the jurors can't make an independent assessment now that they know that the president of the United States thinks that the person is guilty and should be executed.
It's not the first time Donald Trump has screamed for retribution.
I am strongly in favor of the death penalty.
In 1989, 5 black and Hispanic teens were accused of assaulting and raping a white woman in Central Park. Trump took out full-page ads in all the major New York papers, calling for the return of the death penalty for the so-called Central Park 5. Even after the teens were exonerated 12 years later, Trump never apologized. Jacobs says arguments of jury influencing usually fail. And while he thinks this case could merit the death penalty, others disagree.
I'm not someone who believes in the death penalty in general. I just don't. I believe this is an individual who should rot in prison for the rest of his life.
And as for any lingering questions about the U.S. justice system,
if anyone has any doubt about it, they can ask the more than 500 criminals whom the Department of Justice has convicted of terrorism-related offenses since 9/11.
A subtle message to his boss, perhaps, that the system works just fine. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
For 11 minutes this evening, Donald Trump wasn't able to tweet because his Twitter account was pulled from the site. Twitter says an employee inadvertently deactivated the president's personal account. The company says it's investigating and taking steps to prevent this from happening again. A Quebec woman is facing first-degree murder charges in the deaths of 3 newborns. The bodies of 3 infants were found last month during a search of the 27-year-old woman's home. Police believe the infants were all from different pregnancies. A common procedure that's life-saving for heart attack patients may in fact be unnecessary for some others. That's according to new medical research on stents, the plastic or metal tubes inserted to open blocked arteries. More than 500,000 stents are inserted around the world every year, specifically to relieve chest pain. But a study published in The Lancet suggests they are wildly overused for that purpose. And in some cases, drugs would be just as effective. Patients who received a placebo procedure later reported feeling the same pain relief as those who actually had a stent inserted, raising further questions about their effectiveness. We wanted to learn more about the research. So in studio tonight, Dr. Sasha Bhatia, a cardiologist at Women's College Hospital and University Health Network. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thanks for having me.
This is research that's caused some real shockwaves within the cardiology community. Why is that?
Well, Heather, you're absolutely right. Stenting has been sort of mainstay first-line therapy for the treatment of stable angina or chest pain because of a blocked artery. This new research, a really well-done study from the UK, showed that medical therapy or pills might be equally effective to stenting in terms of patients' feelings of chest pain, suggesting that there would be some patients for whom stenting may not be necessary.
So what is likely to change as a result of these findings?
Sure. So when we have a patient who has chest pain that we think is related to a blocked artery, we send them for an angiogram. And often when we see a blockage, we say we might as well fix the blockage then and there. Now we can actually give patients a choice. And this research is suggesting that we might be able to, instead of stenting right away, to have a conversation with patients to say, would you like to undergo the stenting procedure? Or perhaps medical therapy as a trial first would be effective. And if that doesn't work, then go on to stenting.
Okay. We mentioned stenting has been used on a widespread basis for decades now. And it's popular because it's less invasive than cardiac surgery for many patients. So I'm thinking of people watching us at home tonight, Dr. Bhatia, who have had stents inserted. Is there any cause for concern for them?
I don't think so, Heather. To be frank, stenting in this study was still shown to improve symptoms of angina and was shown to be very safe. I think what the study is saying, though, is that pills for people who have a blockage may also be safe. It just, I think, gives people more choices.
All right. Dr. Bhatia, thank you for coming in tonight. Really appreciate your insight.
Thanks so much,
Dr.
Heather.
Sasha Bhatia. Despite lingering concerns and objections, notably from law enforcement, the federal government is on target to legalize cannabis next year. And those who plan to profit from legal pot are already hard at work on their retail strategies. As Rafi Boudjikanian found out, some ambitious entrepreneurs are already looking at going international.
What were you telling me that your mom was doing with the bomb?
She's been using it as a flower vase.
For these university students, building a better bong didn't come easy. They made sure it was dishwasher and freezer safe, and they also tested its endurance.
Just knocking it off a coffee table like a typical user would, right? Testing it on hardwood, carpeted hardwood, on carpet itself, on tile.
While they hope to bring their product to market soon, others are already there. Aurora serves the medical marijuana market both here and abroad. It's putting the finishing touches on this 800,000 square foot grow-up next to Edmonton International Airport. Between pending legalization in Canada and the expectation other jurisdictions will follow suit, Aurora says the sky's the limit.
The European Union alone, which is starting to open up, will be a market of more than 400 million people. Germany, where we're already selling medical cannabis, is a market of more than 80 million people.
It may still be a work in progress, but Aurora estimates it will produce more than 100,000 kilograms of cannabis per year at this facility. That'll be partly for the Canadian consumer market. Of course, nobody knows how big that is yet, but one industry study pegs it as potentially 40% of the country's adult population. Others want to bite out of those sales too. For the last 3 years, Nutritional High has focused on edibles in Colorado, where recreational consumption is already legal. Now it wants to use its homegrown advantage here.
I think the Canadians were first into the marketplace, really, so I believe there's an expertise level by being a Canadian company that you get a lot of respect in the industry.
With nearly 70 companies eyeing the Canadian legal grow-up sector alone, this expert says not everyone may come out on top.
We'll have an opportunity to see who's more innovative, who's more efficient in production, who can control costs.
All that with big money up for grabs. The Deloitte Financial Group says the industry could be worth $23 billion a year. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Edmonton.
Straight ahead, a dispatch from Churchill, Manitoba, where the star attractions find themselves increasingly on thin ice. Good morning. I'm Heather Hiscox. New information just into me now. The University of Moncton. So number one, the tale of the tapes. It is a deadly start to tornado season. There has been talk that this could trigger an election. Good morning once again from Yellowknife. This is something we've never done on our program before. What is it about young guys in their 20s? What do you like? Hoping for a Canada-Russia matchup in the gold medal final. What have these 48 hours been like for you?
You rarely do interviews, I know, so I'm particularly thrilled.
There is a Coast Guard icebreaker on the way to break them free. You know, you touched on something that so many Canadians have said, didn't necessarily agree with his politics, but I sure would have liked to have sat down and had a beer or two with him.
They call me joking, just joking.
I got it, I got it. You think you've done it all in your career? Well, not quite.
Oh, Canada, we stand on God.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? All sorts of memories from across the country, around the world, memories and hairstyles and hats and the whole rigmarole. Well, live in the next commercial break here, I'll be taking your questions. You can ask about anything you saw just there. You can ask about my normal gig, which is, of course, the morning show, Morning Live on CBC News Network from 6 until 10 in the morning. You can ask about the Olympics, because a lot of the scenes were the Olympics. And, of course, we're getting set for South Korea coming up in less than 300 days. So, by all means, fire away. Leave a question in the comments below. I will try to get to them all in the next commercial break, and I'm looking forward to it. So see you then. The iconic polar bears of southern Hudson Bay. For decades, they've been a tourist magnet for the beleaguered community of Churchill, Manitoba. But lately, they've also attracted scientists who are studying climate change and its impact. What have they discovered? Duncan McHugh went there recently for some answers.
Churchill, Manitoba. It's known as the polar bear capital of the world. But for how much longer? It's a question that vexes Dr. Nick Lunn of Environment Canada. For the past 30 years, he's come to the shores of western Hudson Bay in spring and fall to study polar bears. The result, Canada knows more about its bears than any country in the world.
But one of the important things with a long-term database is you can not only pick out natural variability, but you can look at trends over time. And that's really critical.
From the air, Lunn's team tranquilizes them, then quickly measures teeth, weight, girth, and samples blood. That data helps track the bear's health, and it's troubling.
There were 1,200 bears in the late 1980s here in western Hudson Bay. And sort of the most recent estimates, it's down to about 800 or so. And so that is cause for concern, but it's also sort of a warning bell.
It was surprisingly the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines in 1991 that gave scientists the first clues. Changes in the ecosystem were dramatically impacting polar bears.
And that volcano put up an awful lot of particulate matter into the atmosphere, and it cooled sort of the global temperature by about 0.5 degree Celsius for about a 3-year period. And what we noticed in our data set, because we had bears every year, there was sort of a positive blip increase in the condition of bears.
Going over it on the right at 2 o'clock. That's the one I'm going to take a look at. Yep, 3 of them.
During that brief period of global cooling, the Pinatubo years, newborn polar bear cubs were fatter and more likely to survive.
And so that gave us sort of a clue that, hey, you know, maybe polar bears would be a good thing to monitor sort of big environmental change.
More than 25 years later, Dr. Lund's data shows the bears are shrinking in weight and year after year in population.
We no longer see females with triplets, right? That's something we haven't seen since 1996. It's big adult males are lighter now than they were. Same with adult females with cubs. Pregnant females, they're not as heavy as they used to be. Cub survival is down, weights are down.
The reason sea ice breaks up 3 weeks earlier than it used to. Rising global temperatures mean less time for bears to hunt seals, their staple food.
The models all predict continued loss of sea ice, so that will mean for bears longer and longer and longer periods with no sea ice, bears being on shore, and that will not be good for polar bears.
Another day, another big batch of measurements, and he will keep on analyzing. But the data keeps suggesting the bears are on thin ice.
So you will see, I would expect a gradual decline in the size of this subpopulation, and at some point down the road, if it continues, it won't be a viable population, they'll be gone.
The iconic polar bears of southern Hudson Bay gone from these parts, unless the planet begins to cool. Duncan McHugh, CBC News, Churchill, Manitoba.
Last week, we asked for your climate change questions, and lots came in, including one from Victor in Vancouver, who asked, hasn't humanity passed the point of no return regarding CO2 emissions? Well, tomorrow, our science correspondent Bob McDonough will be here to answer Victor's question and many others on a special edition of Ask Bob. Hot on the heels of the Bill Morneau controversy, more cabinet ministers could be at odds with the federal ethics commissioner. At issue is coming up. And later,
they're all in a technological arms race to keep you there the longest.
Turn on, check app, repeat. How tech companies are keeping you hooked on your smartphone. That's later on The National. Hello, 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 and welcome to our Facebook Live in what is just for the last few days where we're doing the National, because on Monday, of course, the brand new National begins in a new studio, and I know there's a lot of excitement about that. But I'm Heather Hiscox, filling in here on these last editions of the National, and happy to take your Facebook questions. And we have some already, so why don't I get right to them? Linda Cunningham, wondering, what is the biggest thing I'm looking forward to in covering the Winter Olympics in South Korea? Thanks for the great question, Linda. It's coming up. I leave February the 4th, so I'll be there the month of February. It's my 8th Olympics, 8th Olympics. And I'll tell you what I love every time. It's as simple as the athlete stories, because you have to understand that these Canadian athletes, they always have these incredible stories of challenge, of overcoming incredible obstacles, whether it's financial to get their training, whether it's some sort of physical injury that's almost killed their dreams. And then the overcoming of those to have this one moment of time where it can go one way for them or the other. It's just an extraordinary thing to witness. And those stories just keep me coming back time after time. South Korea, I've never been, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And as we've been hearing this week from Scott Russell, all of the facilities and the venues are in place. So all of that should be very, very good. Of course, there's the security threat and that story, which is very real and one that I'm interested in. But hopefully things will be safe. And certainly they've taken every precaution to this point. We're watching very closely. Let me ask, speaking of North Korea and threats, Catherine Lodge Childs wonder whether I feel restricted in what I can say or ask about the current U.S. administration. Catherine, what I can say, I'm not an editorialist. I don't say a lot about what I think about the Trump administration. When there's room to criticize and it's based in fact, we say it, we put it out there, just fact, for you at home to decide whether you like it or not. What I ask about the current U.S. administration, absolutely not. I feel that any question is fair as long as it's based on the reality of the story, the facts of the day, and I don't shy away from asking those questions. Even though, let me give you one example. Early on in the North Korea insulting back and forth, Donald Trump said that all options were on the table, and I asked a question about if that included military options. Some viewers didn't like that because they thought I was suggesting a military option, but sure enough, of course, that's become a big point of discussion. So I feel that every question is fair, but again, my commentary, that's not what I do, so I don't venture into that. Josh Michael from London. Heather, why did you choose to stay in London instead of moving to Toronto? Josh, have I fooled you? I actually live in both cities. My husband lives in Arva, which is just outside London, and I live in Toronto. And it's been ever thus. We've never actually lived in the same city. I met him when I lived in Montreal. So I live in Toronto during the week. He lives in London during the week. Somebody goes somewhere on the weekends, and maybe that's why we're happy 16 years after marriage. Thank you for the question, Josh. James. When did I start with CBC? James, first at CBC Local in Montreal. I was working in Halifax, and in 1992, I went to CBC Montreal as a reporter and then sometimes anchor. And then I left to go back to Global, first in Quebec, and then I came to Ontario. And then I came 15 years ago to the National as a reporter, first for the National, and then I've been hosting the morning show. This is my 13th season. So that's my history with CBC. Gary, where is the strangest place you have hosted from? That's really a good question. Oh, my goodness. Where have I been? Strange. I just have a few seconds. I've been under balconies. I've been under bridges. I've been beside robots exploding bombs. I've been in a lot of really strange places, in strange weather conditions, too. Thank you for all your questions. I'd like to keep going, but I should get back to work. David Commons coming up. Thanks, everybody. The United Conservative Party is new on the scene in Alberta politics, and its first leader will be familiar to many. Jason Kenney won the job last weekend, and we have some familiar faces with us tonight to talk about it. Andrew is in Toronto, Althea in Toronto as well, and Shachi Curl is joining us from Vancouver. Hello to all three of you.
Hello. Hi, Heather.
In just a matter of months, if you haven't been keeping close track, Jason Kenney left federal politics, won the PC leadership in Alberta, formed a new United Party, and then won its leadership decisively.
Friends, we are one step closer to a government that will stand up and defend our province from the growing attacks against our resources and our economy.
From his victory speech. Now, Andrew, let me start with you, because obviously his election as leader is going to have implications for Rachel Notley, who will face him likely in 2019. But let's look at the national implications for tonight. In terms of that Alberta for Albertan stance we heard expressed there, what is this going to mean for regional and provincial tensions, differences, relations?
Well, the tensions are already there, I guess I would say. Albertans are feeling kind of beaten up, not just by the recent oil price collapse, which they're recovering from, but a sense that the game is stacked against them. There was this implicit or explicit bargain that if we went along with carbon taxes, that there'd be a trade-off in terms of pipelines being built. And a lot of Albertans would say it doesn't look like that's happened when they see the Trans Mountain barely alive, when they see Northern Gateway having been killed, when they see Energy East having been killed. And so there's a sense that, as I say, that this game, this bargain that was supposed to be out there has not been fulfilled. And partly some of them are maybe looking to take that out on Rachel Notley, feeling that she got too close with Justin Trudeau. But more broadly, they're feeling like they need to push back. And that's, so the tension's already there, but it could well lead to increased tensions as a result.
Althea, your thoughts on that, particularly as concerns BC and Quebec, as Andrew mentioned?
Yeah, well, part of Mr. Kenney's offer to Albertans was to wage war against the equalization formula, for example. He said he was going to have a referendum on this formula, and he was going to pressure the federal government to change the formula, although the formula that exists at the moment is the formula that his government, the Stephen Harper government, helped establish. He's also threatened during the campaign to withhold oil and gas to British Columbia if they slowed down the Kinder Morgan process. So already he's signaling he's basically going to be the Brad Wall of the conservative movement across the country, and is going to be Justin Trudeau's conservative opposition, not just a potential Alberta premier, but the voice of right-wingers across the country. That has significant implications for Andrew Scheer as well, the new Conservative leader, who risks being really overshadowed by Jason Kenney, who is very attuned at the media game, and also has a message that is probably more conservative than Andrew Scheer wants his message to be. He still needs to reach out to people in suburbia, for example. And so a message on the environment that might play well in Alberta may not necessarily play well in places where the Conservatives need to win in 2019.
Let's talk about Andrew Scheer and conservatism in a little bit more detail in a second. But you also raised, Althea, equalization. Now, there's an issue the Liberals federally would rather not talk about, likely. So, Shachi, bringing you in, pick up on the points that Althea was making in terms of the challenge that Jason Kenney presents for Justin Trudeau.
Well, he presents a challenge, but in some ways, Justin Trudeau may present a challenge back to Jason Kenney. It's important to remember that the face of Alberta and in some ways the political values of Alberta may be shifting. Yes, I am going to fight Ottawa, I'm going to be swinging for Albertans who are disrespected in Confederation is a very resonant message. It's protein on the plate. But let's just look at the census numbers that we saw very recently that show not just migration, but immigration into Alberta. And so what does that mean in terms of political culture and really sort of values around what new Canadians find important? And they may value stability, they may value a better quality of life more than some of these more pointed topics on policy, on the environment, on equalization. Not only that, about half in the province are a little bit worried about where Jason Kenney is going to take the party. They are concerned and expressing concern that a united Conservative Party may actually be too right-wing. And on leadership, when we asked Albertans about this during the leadership campaign, look, he won a decisive mandate from United Conservative Party members. But at the same time, it was Brian Jean who was actually doing a little bit better on favorability among all Albertans.
Andrew, on the new voters, we've seen Jason Kenney expertly cultivate those new voters. Justin Trudeau cultivates those same voters, uses similar strategies. So again, your thoughts on the kind of challenge that Jason Kenney presents to the Liberal leader, the Prime Minister? Yeah,
he's extremely aware of that and was a great success story federally in that regard. Certainly compared to any previous Conservative government, the Harper government was able to reach out to them, squandered some of those gains later in their term, but I think that was an important advance. I do think that defending Alberta's economy, defending its resource base from outsiders plays pretty well, I think, across the board, frankly, in any province, but particularly in Alberta at this time. There's a dilemma here for, as you mentioned, for both Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer. The basic problem here is we've got the fundamental terms of federalism are not being observed. If you've got provinces saying you can't transport your resources across our soil unless you pay us Dana Geld or maybe we just block it altogether, that's just fundamentally contrary to the whole, the basis of which why we formed a country. If the reason why Kenney gets some traction in this is because the federal government so far has not been doing its job of pushing this through. Now, that could change, but somebody's got to be able to speak up for the overall national interest, not just the Alberta interest. So that's a challenge for Trudeau. It's also potentially an opportunity for Scheer. I mean, it's true that to some extent he might be overshadowed by Kenney, but he can also play off him. He's got a different constituency to appeal to than just Albertans. But if he can broaden it into a who speaks for Canada type of message, then there's maybe a potential opening for him.
Shachi, just one last thought on that to you before we change issues. And that is, I mean, are you picking up anything? Is there a sense of a brewing showdown over who is going to be the most conservative or the most influential conservative voice?
Well, it's interesting because on one hand, we've already got signs of a showdown between the NDP in Alberta and the NDP nationally over some of these energy issues. Rachel Notley turning to both the leader of the NDP in British Columbia and nationally saying, hey, don't sink me here on the energy file. I would just suggest that both Andrew Scheer and Jason Kenney do well to get on the same page around that because there is a lot of division and a lot of nuance and no community, whether it be a minority community or a community in the environmental lobby or in the energy lobby really votes or thinks as a monolith. There's a lot of different shifting things at play.
Okay. Althea, I'm going to get you to begin the next area. The issue that was dominating the Hill again this week was the finance minister, loopholes, and ethics.
Is the ethics commissioner wrong when she says that there is more than one minister but less than 5? Who are the other ministers that are using the same loophole that the finance minister used?
So there was question period today, and the Conservative leader Andrew Scheer asking the question that I'm sure all three of you were asking, many else were asking. You know, at fewer than 5 ministers, Althea. That's all we got from the office of Mary Dawson, the ethics commissioner. No names, no specific numbers. Should there be an obligation to disclose that?
Well, I'm sure we want an obligation to disclose that, but her read of her job is to keep those numbers confidential. Her role is basically to oversee about 2,200 public office holders who have reporting guidelines, to receive their information confidentially, to provide information confidentially. And she argues to investigate only when the media or members of parliament raise issues to her attention. She doesn't proactively investigate. So at issue today was basically the Prime Minister's office, and Bill Morneau said this in question period today, that there are 2 people who were using a loophole that he had used to hold their assets, public securities, indirectly. Mary Dawson decided that she was going to cast the net wider and leave the suggestion that there was as many as 5. Now, there's no rule, as far as I can tell, that suggests that you need to cast the net that wide. I don't know why she didn't just say there were 2 people. I mean, the information is actually publicly available on her website. But she refuses to do so. And on the note of the loophole, may I just add that many observers believe that this loophole was actually created by Mary Dawson herself. She's a lawyer. Basically, she's been doing a job that nobody wants, the ethics commissioner's job, since 2007. And her read of the act is, well, this wasn't explicitly included, therefore it's excluded. But many people, like Democracy Watch, like former observers of conflict of interest legislation around the world, think this loophole was basically created by her.
Okay, I'm going to get Andrew and then Shachi's closing thoughts on this. Andrew, mentioning Mary Dawson, obviously the Liberals are using her to provide pretty good cover on this, in that whatever her bad advice has allowed, that's led to this lack of transparency. Is she the watchdog Canada needs in this position? How much of a level of responsibility does she bear?
I think it's increasingly clear she bears a fair amount. I mean, everybody's been saying, well, we've just been following the advice of the ethics commissioner, and even the Tories say, oh, we don't question the judgment of the ethics commissioner. I question the judgment of the ethics commissioner. I think a lot of people do. She gave Morneau bad advice. He shouldn't have taken it. He should have had enough sense not to take it. But not only in creating, as Althea said, this loophole that doesn't appear anywhere in the law, but also in her proposed remedy of the conflict of interest screen. You know, maybe she's got the power to recommend that, but it shouldn't be taking the place of the obligation, very clear obligation, to recuse and to announce that you've recused, which he didn't do. So, you know, if you're in a position like Morneau, you have to do one or more of 3 things. You have to either divest or disclose or recuse, and he didn't do any of those, apparently with all the blessing of the ethics commissioner. So I think she's got a lot of questions to answer, as does he.
And many asking, where was the common sense, as you suggest, in all of this? So, Shachi, to you, the final question. Within a government that has promised greater openness, greater accountability, greater transparency, what effect is all of this having on public perception?
You know, ethics is the branch of philosophy that deals with morality and the virtuous and non-virtuous characteristics and actions of people. And this is what it's about. It's about virtue. At the end of the day, the claims here are not that the Trudeau government, that Bill Morneau, that the other minister has done anything necessarily wrong in a quasi-legal sense. It's that this government, its first ministers, are not necessarily meeting the extraordinary test of virtue that Justin Trudeau set for himself and for his cabinet. Of course, the problem for the Conservatives in all of this is that there's a pox on both houses when it comes to failing both the virtue test and the common sense test. We're not that far removed from the days of Brian Mulroney being dragged through the issues around his accepting of cash payments, and we're still fairly close to the days of the Harper PMO's dealings with the Duffy affair. And at the end of it, you know, Canadians are just sitting back and wondering why their parliamentarians can't figure this out and get it straight when they have to get it straight around their own codes of conduct and common sense at work.
Andrew, Althea, Shachi, thank you. And we'll leave it at that, unfortunately, for this week, but I appreciate the insight as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now, just ahead, the addiction tool that may be hiding in your smartphone, and tech companies put it there.
The people of Thomasville, Georgia have stopped counting how often it comes. They just know it does. It's that train, the one carrying the most galling of cargoes. Canadian softwood lumber, Newfoundland, Quebec, British Columbia's best. Each plank more salt in the very deep wound of Bob Balfour.
Well, it doesn't feel very good to see the tracks filled with Canadian lumber. We know it's overwhelming the country.
In that rail yard shadow, 3 generations of Bob Balfours have cut southern pine here. But the mill's been silent for months. No match, the argument goes, for Canada.
We know it's taking our markets away from us. They can undersell southern yellow pine all over the United States. There's no way that we can compete with Canada.
Here, in the land of the southern pine, that's a little hard to take. Georgia is the largest lumber products manufacturer in the entire United States, but that doesn't mean its own southern pine rules this place. Canadian softwood, this lumber right here, now takes 1/3 of the market. Ideal for the construction industry, Canadian softwood is lighter, easier to pound nails into, cheaper. And that's always frustrated the U.S. mill owners. Decades of trade battles were supposed to end with a deal negotiated in 1996 that restricts the export of Canadian softwood lumber. U.S. mill owners say it didn't protect them enough. Point out that 3 major Georgia mills have closed in the last year. Many more, like Metcalf Lumber, are on the brink. Limping along, the owner says, in hope that when the current agreement ends on March 31st, something stricter will replace it. Canadians want just the opposite, complete free trade in softwood. That makes P.W. Bryan shudder.
I think the situation only worsens. Probably we'll have to shut down.
Canadian mills are suffering too, but there's a perception here that Canada has an unbeatable edge. Partly because of the low Canadian dollar, partly because many Canadian mills are more modern, more efficient. But the most unfair advantage, say the Americans, is how little Canadians pay for timber. Where U.S. mills must bid for wood on the open market, Canadians buy it from government-owned land at much cheaper prices. An illegal subsidy, the Americans scream. Don't bother trying to remind anyone here that that's never been proven.
I don't think they're as justified as our plight. I'm telling you, the lumber industry in the United States is in dire straits. I mean, this is the worst. I've been in it 40 years, I've never seen it like this.
Complex trade issues that deep in the southern woods boil down to one clear reality.
It's really hurt our business. You know, I don't have any problem with them shipping it in here, but they should tax it accordingly.
An entire industry on the edge, convinced Canada is driving it into oblivion. Adrienne Arsenault, CBC News, Thomasville, Georgia.
They need your eyeballs locked in that app as long as humanly possible, and they're all in a technological arms race to keep you there the longest.
With every beep and buzz, the pull of your smartphone can be hard to resist. Screen time is soaring, and social media apps are a big reason why. They're programmed to lure you in, but they're also rewiring your mind to keep you hooked. David Common explains how it works.
Wake up, eat breakfast, Samsung, go to school.
Jackson may only be 8 years old, but if he keeps using a tablet or phone this much, one algorithm predicts he'll spend 15 years of his life on one.
Samsung, go to bed, good night.
By one measure, families like Jackson's now spend about 20% of their daily life on their devices. App developers want that. Ramsey Brown works in the industry and understands why this is happening.
A doubling in the amount of time someone's spending on their platform can translate to a doubling of revenue. And if you can do that in just a few lines of code, it's a no-brainer.
Social media app developers use powerful habit-forming tools, including one called the hook model. It uses variable rewards. Those are the likes, retweets, shares, and more. You don't know when they'll come, much like a slot machine. And that unpredictability infatuates the mind. When you do get a like, your mind registers it as pleasure, and it wants more.
They need your eyeballs locked in that app as long as humanly possible, and they're all in a technological arms race to keep you there the longest.
Some social media apps even delay notifications until their algorithms determine the best moment to prompt you onto your device, or to keep you from leaving it. Look around. It works. Our screen time is skyrocketing. Just because it's normal or normalized
doesn't mean it's healthy. So, and it doesn't mean that things couldn't be more balanced.
Lisa Pont is a social worker.
Technology has an impact on memory, mood, so anxiety and depression. It has an impact on sleep, has an impact on overall well-being.
Even as researchers try to figure out what this is doing to our mind, social media app developers are using past research, including neuroscience and behavior theory, to try to figure out how to keep us on those devices. David Common, CBC News, Toronto.
You can watch the full story tomorrow night on Marketplace. Addicted to Your Smartphone airs on CBC Television at 8 p.m., 8:30 in Newfoundland. Well, who doesn't love a mystery? When we come back, the Great Pyramid reveals a secret it has been hiding for thousands of years.
Well, time now for a little ride on the information highway. You might think it's a trip that requires all sorts of complicated electronic gadgetry, but then you might want to think again. Here's Ron Charles with tonight's Canada Online.
Music rack. You can talk to it, and it will listen to you. It will wake you up in the morning, play music, and play the latest multimedia computer programs.
I think it's a way to the future, especially with the children.
This new type of computer marks a turning point for big manufacturers. They now call them home appliances. This computer even has on-screen TV, letting people watch while they work. The big companies are hoping gadgets like this, along with easy-to-use programs, will help them break into the lucrative home market.
The home market is the largest growing market, again, because more and more people are embracing computer technology, because what it is today, what it was, as opposed to what it was 10 years ago. So I see it becoming a very common appliance.
Hello, we're unable to take your call right now. Companies like Packard Bell say their computers will be the answer for people riding the next high-tech wave, the information superhighway, offering home services such as shopping, banking, entertainment, even multimedia. But computer companies aren't alone. There's a race on to provide the engine people will use on the information highway.
You've got the phone company, you've got the cable company, you've got the television broadcasters, and now you've got the computer manufacturers as well as the software makers.
You can scan through the movie in terms of fast forward.
Silicon Graphics is convinced its horse will win the race to connect the continent, but not with computers. It's working on something that will be much more familiar to people.
They would be compelled to use the information highway on the basis of a machine, a box in the living room that is custom designed for that purpose. It's not a computer, it's essentially a hybrid of a TV set with computer internals.
But computer makers still think 70% of homes will have computers by the end of the century, and they hope the fancy gadgets in their new machines will help them do a lot of that selling right now. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
Thousands of years after its construction, the Great Pyramid of Giza still has the capacity to surprise. Today, scientists announced the discovery of another chamber inside the structure, the first in over a century. They found the huge inner room, or the void as some are calling it, by tracking tiny particles from space that penetrate solid matter here on Earth. Those were used to create 3D images of the chamber, causing no damage to the pyramid. Before we go, a recap of one of our top stories tonight. A massive recall is underway for a popular brand of fire extinguishers because they may not work in an emergency. Nearly 3 million of them were sold in Canada. That's the National for this Thursday night. For news at any hour, you can always go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Heather Hiscox. Thank you for watching.